Yo, what's going on, guys? It's G Miners here. To finish things out, we have part 3 of the best builds to take into Lightfall. In this video, we are strictly focusing on Titan builds, but if you guys did miss my Warlock and Hunter videos, those will both be linked below. When I say the best builds to bring into Lightfall, as of right now, I think these are going to be the best builds for the day 1 raid race. So a lot of the decisions I am making here come down to contest mode, and they're going to be builds that are useful for survivability, ad clear, and then boss encounters where you need damage. Before Lightfall launches, I might end up putting out a when to go farming guide, which is the Nightfall reward for the final week of the season. And then after that, I will probably wait to post again until Lightfall drops, where I'll be spamming the feed with builds, testing, and other important info before the raid release. So if you guys do enjoy this video or you want to see any of those next week, make sure to drop a like and sub down below. With that said, let's get on to build number 1. As of right now, Hoyle, aka Heart of Inmost Light, is still broken. So first and foremost, we have the Void Hoyle build. I've said this in every one of these best build videos, but I think with an orb generation meta next season, Devour is going to be broken. Having Echo of Starvation on any class and then just a ton of orbs around is going to make this one of the best subclasses for surviving. Heart of Inmost Light is still fantastic on Void, and the Aspect Controlled Demolition is one of the best in the game for ad clear. I think the built-in overshield with the recent DR fix also helps Titans out a ton, giving you a roaming 65% DR next season when paired with tier 10 resilience. I also usually have volatile rounds built into my class setup. Since we do have Devour and the 800% regen from Hoyle, we get a stupid amount of grenades to throw, which means we have nearly 100% uptime on volatile rounds. Bubble is also still a great super for holding down an area or just for a panic cast super where you can keep yourself and teammates alive, and then Sentinel Shield is also super strong. There are definitely some variations with the build you can have as well. Hoyle isn't needed for this to be strong, so having your Titan on Aeons or something like Ursa Furiosa's is completely doable. The full Void layout can be seen on screen now. I'm running Offensive Bulwark for the extra fragment slot. Otherwise, I do think having an overshield on your barricade is going to be better. But if you have Controlled Demolition, it feels way stronger with Echo of Expulsion, which is why I have this. And then Starvation, Undermining, and Instability are also going to be needed for the rest of the build setup. When running something like Heart of Inmost Light, I tend to use Throwing Shield so I can spam it. Otherwise, Shield Bash is going to be better for taking out tankier targets. Moving on to build number 2, we have Solar Titan, specifically with Synthoceps. I think that the survivability on Solar, as you're going to see here, is fine. Usually when testing builds, I use the Legend campaign, and it can take a few tries to get some good background gameplay. This build, first try, just obliterated everything. The nice part is, even without Synthos, you will still one-hit red bars during contest mode. Synthoceps just help your hammer one-shot tankier ads as well. So really, for most encounters, you could easily swap this out for Aeons, Phoenix Cradle, or anything else. I definitely don't think aping on day 1 is the best strat, but when using the hammer at a close range, you get Cure and Restoration. Cure is from the hammer pickup, and then Restoration is from the sunspots it creates. This is great for spawn trapping ads, which you can do in most encounters, and do keep in mind this is all just with a melee ability, so when you throw in special weapons and heavies, the build really comes together nicely. The only reason I put this after Void Titan is because I do think that having Devour, given enough orbs on the ground, might be pretty unbeatable, but in the case where you need to take out majors and ultras pretty quickly, I think this build really shines. The full subclass setup is on screen now. Even with changes coming in Lightfall and the new fragments we're getting, I don't see this build changing much. I personally have Thermite Grenade on, but Healing Grenade would be solid if you guys want that just in case. Other than that, with Ember of Empyrean and Ember of Torches, you have roaming healing and a roaming 25% buff. Definitely one of the strongest builds currently in the game. I don't think we will see a nerf for it in Lightfall. Last but not least, we have Arc Titan. I think realistically this build could receive a nerf to either the subclass or just Heart of Inmost Light, and I also don't think the build is crazy strong without Heart of Inmost Light, which is why it's lower on the list. On top of this, the build doesn't have any major healing methods other than Knockout, which can be risky. Most people are aware of the build already, but the essence are going to be mods like Firepower, Elemental Ordnance, and Elemental Charge, which allows you to spam grenades. Obviously, we are getting mod changes next season, so these will likely change, and the build should still be similar, but there is also always a chance that these mods don't return. Pulse grenades and storm grenades are both super strong on the build, and the ad clear becomes wild with Spark of Shock, which constantly makes our grenades jolt enemies. I've used this in GMs and GM speedruns, so even when things almost one-shot you, the build is crazy easy to use. If this does go untouched in Lightfall, I think it will be the strongest build to use in the right encounters, as long as you can effectively survive while using it. The subclass setup is once again on screen. I think for harder content, barriers are better to take in than thruster, and I also tend not to like thunderclap myself, so that's why I use shoulder charge. The reason the build is so strong is because your abilities are effectively ad clearing for you, and the jolt keeps most enemies permastunned. Spark of Resistance does help somewhat for surviving, but it will also be getting a slight nerf in Lightfall. If ads are able to be spawn trapped 100% effectively, this is where I see Arc making the most sense, or if burst DPS is required, because swapping last second to something like Curious of the Falling Star is super easy to do and allows you to increase your damage output. These are the builds that our Titan will be running during contest mode for Lightfall, unless there are any major changes. I think if nothing else, having a Solar Titan the whole time is a safe bet. Arc will be great, but has the greatest chance at a nerf, and then Void is also going to be amazing given enough orbs on the ground. Let me know your thoughts on the builds in the comments below, along with any other Titan builds you think are strong. I will be streaming a bunch in Lightfall, including my team's day 1 clear of the new raid, so if you guys also want to check that out, a link to my Twitch and my Discord will both be in the description. Anyways, that's all for this video. As always, have a good one, guys. Peace.